Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my TG Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post-Age of Overlord. We got a bunch of new TG cards in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh booster set, including 3 new synchro monsters on top of a bunch of new main deck support cards, including spells, and also a pretty awesome new main deck monster as well. All this new support goes into the playstyle of being able just to synchro summon relentlessly with the TG deck and using our new cards, including TG Mighty Striker, all the way down to our brand new boss monster for all of this incredible setup that you can do with this synchro focused deck. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the TG monsters, we're running 3 copies of the brand new TG Rocket Salamander. You can tribute 1 TG monster to special summon 1 TG monster from your deck with a different original name than that tributed monster. If you control a machine TG monster, you can target 1 level 4 or lower TG monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense, but negate its effects. You can only use each effect of TG Rocket Salamander once per turn. So Rocket Salamander basically gives you access to all the good variety of TG monsters we run. Being a level 1 non-tuner also makes it work so we can use it with our other tuner monsters to go into the many different synchro monsters like the new TG Mighty Striker, or even up to the new TG Over Dragonar for the summons it can dish out with the monsters you summon out. All you need is the additional TG monster, but you can also use Rocket Salamander itself as the tribute for going into your TG monster you need. And also, we're running 3 copies of TG Screw Serpent, being the level 4 tuner. If it's normal or special summon, you can target 1 level 4 or lower TG monster in your graveyard, except for Screw Serpent, and special summon that monster, but negate its effects. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 TG monster you control, increase or reduce its level by 1 until the end of this turn. So you have level adjustment thanks to Screw Serpent, but also being able to get this card out thanks to cards like Rocket Salamander. Then you can just summon the Rocket Salamander back onto the field, and then you have your level 5 synchro with just 1 card thanks to this play. And also 2 copies of TG Tank Grub. If this card you control is used as synchro material for a TG monster, it can be treated as a non-tuner. If it's sent to the graveyard as a synchro material for a TG monster, you can special summon 1 TG token onto the field, being a level 1 with 0 attack and 0 defense in attack position. You can only use this effect of TG Tank Grub once per turn, but you get more resources for you to use, especially if you go for the level 5 synchro play using your TG Rocket Salamander and Screw Serpent, and then just being able to have that additional token on the field for that monster to continue your synchro climb. Also 2 copies of TG Booster Raptor. If you control a TG monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon TG Booster Raptor once per turn this way, and once per turn during the end phase if it was in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field and sent to this turn, you can add 1 TG monster from your deck to your hand except for Booster Raptor. Just another level 1 non-tuner for an easy special summon onto the field if you have tuners like your Tank Grub setup, or you can just use the summon of Rocket Salamander to tribute into the Tank Grub, special summoning the Booster Raptor onto the field, or using one of the other monsters we have for the setup of this card, which I'll get to a little later down the monster line. I also run 2 copies of TG Gear Zombie. You can target a TG monster you control, special summon this card from your hand, then the targeted monster loses 1,000 attack. You can only use this effect once per turn, but the attack loss isn't really important in this deck since you'll be able just to use those monsters once you summon TG Gear Zombie onto the field as a tuner to then go into another synchro play. With some of the lower numbers for our TG monsters being 1 copy of TG Striker, just another special summon option if your opponent controls a monster and you control none, and then also having a Searcher, being able to add 1 TG monster from your deck to your hand if during the end of the turn this card was destroyed and sent to the graveyard, having that search, but just a special summon resource onto the field to use. And the same with the 1 TG Werewolf. When a level 4 or lower monster is special summon, being able to summon this card onto the field from your hand, having another search if it was destroyed and sent to the graveyard. With the last being TG Drillfish, you have the option if all monsters you control are TG, you can special summon this card from your hand, and when a TG monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So it's more just another special summon resource, as are all of these monsters, or just the different level options for the particular play we may need them for. I also run the 1 copy of Miscellaneousaurus. I do like the banish option, just being able to send Miscellaneousaurus and then have the banish from the graveyard to be able to summon out a TG Booster Raptor, because I wanted to focus more on the full power of the TG deck, being more of a pure build. I know some people were trying to run the Snake Eye support from the newest set. It gets a little pricey for some of the Snake Eye cards currently, so if you just wanted to go for a pure TG deck, that's what I was trying to focus on in this deck. With the last of the main deck monsters just being our staple lineup. So the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, the 3 copies of Effect Veiler, and then the 2 copies of Nibiru, having all of the hand trap needs for these spots, since with the new cards like Rocket Salamander, just being able to have some pretty good 1-card combo starters or some of our other spells for that setup, just having these numbers of hand traps isn't really that too much of a problem for any of your other plays that it could interrupt initially with the older TG decks, and it definitely does help just going up against some of your opponent's lineups. For the spells, I run 3 copies of TG Limiter Removal. You discard 1 card to add 2 TG monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 TG monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, or if you control a machine TG monster, you can add it to your hand instead. You're going to use 1 TG Limiter Removal effect per turn, and only once that turn. So you have the search power needed for a good majority of your cards, just being able to add Rocket Salamander, and then just 1 additional TG monster to continue your plays on the field with these 2 cards alone, not including anything else you may have opened up in your hand, and then also being able to make use of some of the other discards for the TG monsters with some of the cards in your graveyard you may have. I also run 3 copies of TG All Clear with the machine TG play. All TG monsters on the field become machine monsters, so this card helps with the add back power of TG Limiter Removal, but also during your main phase you can normal summon 1 TG monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You go in this effect once per turn, and during your main phase you can destroy 1 TG monster in your hand or field, and if you do, add 1 TG monster with a different name from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So the destruction play just gives you more access to search power as well when you have the cards to use, like your Warwolf and your Striker. Since it says when this card, during the end phase of the turn, this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can destroy it with your TG All Clear, having the search off of this card with a different name, and then the additional search of that TG monster as well. Also running the 2 copies of Fossil Dig. You can either add the Miscellaneousaurus or the Booster Raptor to your hand off of this card, depending on the specific search we need. I know we're getting some new Pyro search at the beginning of next year in Maze of Millennia as well, so that'd be a great addition to add for TG Rocket Salamander, which will probably replace the Fossil Dig searching out the Booster Raptor, because just being able to have a card that can search the Pyro TG Rocket Salamander is definitely a much better search to add, with the rest of the spells being the 1 copy of Call by the Grave, the 1 Reinforcements of the Army for the TG Striker search, being a warrior. If you wanted to put Monster Reborn into this spot, you can also do that, or with the Harpy Feather Duster spot as well, being another potential spot for the Monster Reborn. For the traps in the deck, I'm running 2 copies of the new TG Close. When a spell or trap or monster effect is activated while you control a machine TG monster, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. If a synchro monster is banished while this card's in your graveyard, you can set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You're going to use 1 TG Close effect per turn, and only once that turn. So just having the banish for the TG means that on your opponent's turn, if you were to banish like TG Blade Blaster, you'll get the TG Close set back onto the field for you to make use of during your following turn or any of the banished TG effects. I run 2, just in case you do have the 1 banish, you have another target to then make use of for the add back to your hand with this card. And the last of the traps being 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just the hand trap of choice for the trap spot, along with cards like Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler, and Nibiru that we were also running in the deck. For the extra deck monsters, I run 2 copies of the new TG Mighty Striker. Once per turn during your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon using this card you control. You go and use each of the following effects of TG Mighty Striker once per turn. If this card is synchro summoned, you can add 1 TG spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if this card is sent from your monster zone to the graveyard, you can send 1 TG card from your deck to the graveyard, being able to send and set up TG Close and then have it set back on the field for when you banish a TG card, and then just set this counter trap that was sent there thanks to Mighty Striker. You also have a level 2 Synchro Tuner now in the form of TG Mighty Striker to use for some of your other plays, including with our new level 5 Synchro being TG over Dragonair. If it's Synchro Summon, you can special summon any number of your TG monsters from your graveyard in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for TG monsters. You can only use this effect of over Dragonair once per turn. If this card is on the field is destroyed, you draw 1 card. So draw power, but it also can give you the 2 monsters needed to go into your Synchro Tuner to summon on the field to then have your level level 10 Synchro Monster to summon out, which I'll go over the play at the end of the video, but also the 1 copy of TG Glive Blaster. It must be Synchro Summon, being a level 12 Synchro Monster. Quick effect, you can target 1 monster in the field, special summon from the extra deck, but banish it. You can use this effect a number of times per turn, up to the number of non-tuner Synchro Monsters used as the Synchro material for this card. And once per turn, if a monster is banished face up, except during the damage step, you can target one of those special summon monsters and summon it, ignoring its summoning condition. So with the play of being able to target one of them and special summon it to your field, you have resources to grab back those banished monsters along with the initial plays that your TGs were meant to do for that summon. You also just have the added option of targeting a monster in the field, special summon from the extra deck, and banish it to then make use of with your TG close. I also run the 1 copy of Recipro Dragonfly for the level 2 non-tuner synchro options, the 1 Star Guardian for more special summon setup of being able to add back TG monsters from your hand, and then being able to special summon 1 from your hand also. The 1 Wonder Magician as a synchro tuner target for also having spell and trap destruction when it is synchro summoned. The 1 Hyper Librarian for the draw power that you can get from this card. The 1 TG Blade Blaster for an easy level 10 synchro to also summon out into the deck now as well, with the last of the TG monsters being the 1 Halberd Cannon. Once again, an awesome synchro monster, level 12 to make, having this and the option of Glive Blaster as both of your level 12 synchros to go into, needing 1 tuner synchro monster and 2 non-tuner synchro monsters, having some of these same requirements as Halberd Cannon to summon out onto the field, with our generic synchros being the 1 Formula Synchron, the 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, and the 1 Herald of the Arclight to finish off the rest of the synchro monsters for the extra deck. For our Link monsters, the only Link monster we run is the 1 copy of TG Trident Launcher, with some of our restrictions for our TG plays in the deck. Just when it's Link Summon, you can special summon 3 TG monsters, 1 from your hand, 1 from your deck, and 1 from your graveyard in defense. So you can use this if you don't have the proper level lineup for your TG monsters to summon out the ones you need for any of your synchro plays. You are locked into TG monsters with this card, but then also your opponent cannot target TG synchro monsters this card points to, protecting them when you summon them onto the field. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I said before, Rocket Salamander really does help for opening up a good amount of summons in the deck. Just being able to summon out this card, tributing a TG monster to special summon 1 from your deck, can then give you access to your TG Screw Serpent when it is special summoned, targeting the level 4 or lower monster being your Rocket Salamander, summoning it back onto the field. And then also going into the level 5 synchro, using these 2 monsters, you'll then summon out your TG over Dragonair. With this play, you already use the effect of Rocket Salamander, but TG Dragonair, when it's synchro summon, being able to special summon any number of TG monsters from your graveyard in defense, but you can't special summon TGs for the rest of this turn. So then you can summon back your Rocket Salamander and your Screw Serpent onto the field as well. Thanks to this card, you then have the special summon plate to then go into another level 5 synchro monster. So then at this point, you can either go into your TG Star Guardian or your TG Wonder Magician, whichever one you want for the play. You can have the quick effect special summon using your TG Scar Guardian to then go into the play there, or so you have the additional special summon of your Scar Guardian and the monsters you may have in your hand as well, since you just used 1 monster off of the TG Rocket Salamander. So the first initial play you can go for is the Tuner Synchro with your Wonder Magician to then use for the level 10 synchro play of going into your TG Blade Blaster for that summon. Or if, depending on what else you have in your hand, let's say you do the same play I mentioned before, using only the 1 additional monster in your hand, which was the Rocket Salamander, you still have 4 available cards in your hand. If one of the cards happens to be TG Limiter Removal, and then just the 1 other card that you want to discard off of it, you can activate this card, gaining the additional search for the 2 different TG monsters. So you can add your Booster Raptor, and then also having the Drillfish for the add to your hand. Depending on which one you want to use, you'll have 2 special summons thanks to this card as well. For the summon of your monsters onto the field, you'll have the 2 to use for the TG play, or just special summoning out onto the field, or you can go for the additional level 1 tuner, so you can use the Booster Raptor Search and the Gear Zombie, because then you can use the Gear Zombie targeting the Over Dragonair to special summon this card, controlling the TG monster to summon out the Booster Raptor, and then using both of these cards to go into your level 2 non-tuner play, which would be your Recipro Dragonfly, giving you the 3 synchro monsters on the field needed to then excel synchro into your new TG Glive Blaster. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I wanted to go for more of a pure version of the TG deck with this update, focusing more on just what you can add to the current TG deck you may have for the current release of cards we have from Age of Overlord. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.